Hey, this is Action Surge. This is happening. It's happening now. We have we've literally just ended. Should we maybe go back to the beginning, talk about kind of the things that we did and move through? Because
the fair. We
holy hell, a lot happened. You went to the fair. Yeah. So
caramel.
So you made the choice to head back into the festival.
Thank you for indulging us on that, by the way.
Yeah.
You really wanted to. And also Harry kind of just, when he kept going, like, there's caramel!
See, this is the thing. And this is like, I think as a DM, you kind of learn how to press your players' buttons. I thought that was flavor. I didn't think that was a command. So it's interesting that I now know that caramel is the way to make you go and see places.
Well, I was ready to give up on it because I was like, it is risky. I know it's risky, but it.
So then you set up shop.
Yeah.
No, well, yeah. I mean, by that point
risky,
we were
it's risky.
already there.
Everyone.
Hey, it's what I do.
Hey, and I got to fucking just have a little mess with a gnome, so I'm happy.
Yeah, because the gnome thing has come up.
gnome.
The gnome thing has come up a couple of times now.
Yeah.
I think the lore of it will probably be revealed in game rather than revealing it now.
100%.
But like for all of his sort of
Sweetness.
puppy dog, enthusiasm and his kind of openness, seems to take a real issue with gnomes.
Yeah.
What's that about?
Yeah.
What's that about?
You'll find out.
Or will you?
Or will you? Or will it never be revealed?
I will be dead in the first 5 minutes of the next one, and
But
you'll never find out.
It was fun to kind of go to a festival. It was fun, I think, particularly after the tension of we were talking about it. Aoife and I were talking about it after the last session. That like so far, like you have been party to world-changing event after world-changing event. You go up the mountain is dying, the gods are dead, there are worlds beyond the world. You are dying from a blight, and you've managed to live. Your you've got what you wanted really from that fight with Jasmine. You're not going to be outed, and for you to guys just be like, oh my God, I really need to sell some spoons and eat some corn and drink some wine.
Yeah.
But Endelian, how lovely for Endelian to get a little bit of what she wanted.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah, finally.
Yeah.
It's got to be wine o'clock somewhere.
Oh, that's what you kids do to me.
Yeah.
I really liked the fact that you didn't actually fight that well in this battle, and I think it's because you were horrendously hungover, which I really
still
didn't roll well. And I
Fight well in this
Although,
battle. I
let's be
did
honest,
You
got
missed
a
it.
ton
of damage.
You did miss
Yeah.
a full round of attacks with advantage on a man stuck in webs. And I'd like to point out that if Morgan had done that,
Well,
you
I
would
was
have
about to
crushed his
say,
minions.
to be fair, you got two things you wanted out of this episode: wine and Morgan left.
It's all coming up
so
Millhouse for
Morgan's gone.
Endelian.
I did feel a sense of and you can probably see like there was this sense of
Oh, that's it then.
where's Morgan? No, and
Yeah.
I felt like a bit bereft because we'd created this wonderful relationship with him. He'd been party to the big moments of this series so far, and him leaving, it felt kind
After
of quiet.
everything we've been through.
Yeah.
But I mean, the great thing is that Morgan lives. Like, there is no reason why your paths, they may or may not, but they could cross
we
with
could see
Morgan
Morgan
again. We
again.
could see Morgan again.
Yeah.
Morgan again.
We could meet him in a bathhouse by accident.
Yeah, I mean, I'm constantly designing bathhouses. You know me. I love trying to bring nudity into the show.
When Kelness is like constantly going, we should go to that bathhouse.
I know Morgan frequented a bathhouse somewhere outside the walls.
I tell you what, though, at that fair, we did also learn that there is quite literally a market for Calnus's artistic capabilities.
They're good spoons, man. They're good
Has he
spoons.
sold spoons before? Like, is this an unusual turn into commerce for him, or is woodworking something that he's kind
It's
of?
how he's sustained himself, because he kind of roams the land, and it's how he earns money.
It was really cool, I thought, to have an episode where Kel seemed more in his element. Like, he's the reason that, he knew a tavern. He knew how to get through the forest towards Barun. And, that was really... I felt like... so we talked, actually, before we went in. I was like, don't feel like you can derail this because we're not on rails. So... And you took me at my word.
Yeah.
But it's very much like, okay, what do you guys want to do? And it felt like, from me at least, behind the screen, I wasn't really driving anything. Like, you guys were like, here's what we want to do. Here are things we think are cool. And it was up to me in the best way possible to make a tavern, make some traders, like, and give you like render environments for you to go into as you were kind of walking towards them, and to see like Kel kind of take the lead with that a little bit, and to have this like new side to him, to me felt like a really kind of cool thing.
Plus 10 decks to spoon.
Oh my
But
god.
holy hell, you were close to being caught.
Yeah.
I think Pollyanna would have been kind of disastrous, because the point at which like Pollyanna.
She knew everything.
Yeah, she knew. Yeah, she knew
Yeah.
everything. Like, she's been sent to prepare spells to save the mountain. I mean, maybe she's not kind of senior enough to do many great spells to
Sometimes
save
the
the
bread
mountain.
and butter cantrips, they get the job.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great
Yeah,
use of that,
Absolutely.
really,
And it's
really,
just
yeah.
like, I think it's moments like that you're heroes, that you're adventurers, that you can do shit that other people can't do. You know, in a crowded marketplace, you can make a noise. You can make someone shouting caramel and create a sort of a happy sort of stampede, a sort of non-violent stampede.
Yeah, non-violent stampede.
Yeah.
Like everyone was fine.
Yeah, exactly. No,
There was
absolutely.
caramel at the end of it.
Yeah, there was caramel at the end of the rainbow.
There just happened to be one lone caramel seller who was like not getting any
Yeah.
business.
Oh, caramel!
and you created a stampede over there, and suddenly all this business came their way.
Yeah.
So
I feel like caramel is tastes so much better in Reliquia. Like, we can't even possibly comprehend the thought of it. It's a bit like when people, like all those people queue for Supreme clothing.
Yes.
It's like, and I don't understand why, but it's like that obsession with it. Like, caramel is so
I
special.
also feel like, you know, you guys are living in a world. No, I'm never going to make you like get rations and stuff, because I know some people love that in D&D. I think for the purposes of our show, that's not a very useful thing. But generally speaking, you're going to be like, sugar doesn't occur. Like, sugar's hard to get. Like, like. Caramel's a really labour-intensive process, you know, and so it's a little bit like, you know, you'll have them on very, very special occasions, and all kind of, you know, you get one, and a family will divide it into 4 and all have a single piece. Do you know what I mean? So it's yeah, it's fun. It's really fun to also have like just a little bit of silliness. Although it's kind of never without stakes in this world at the moment. Like, we've never reached somewhere where you can fully
relax.
Fully
Yeah.
relax.
So it was so irresponsible of them to go back. I can't even believe that it was a thing, but we did. And then setting up, like, there was a stall. It was the
learning
most
that about
you
us?
thing to do. It
Then
was.
you gave them another hour.
yeah, you gave us. I can't believe this. This sounds outrageous. You got one more hour.
Because actually, I think secretly, like, in my mind, it was like they were doing an apprentice task, and it was like they make as much money as possible.
We
before
did need the money.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a really good idea, and it's a way of making money. And hey, you know, the rooms were on you; it was fine. I think it's always fun to do it, but again, it's the. Also, why are you listening to Radian? Like, it's almost like he takes on this persona of like saying yes.
Right.
to no.
Yeah, it kind of feels like he wants to be thought of as the wise one in the room.
Yeah.
Like, he wants to be seen as the like.
The man who remembers nothing.
Yeah.
The wise one, yeah.
But you've already had that moment of like, who's in charge? I'm in charge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that sort of backfired.
Because also
then.
there's an impulsiveness, isn't there? It's like clearly Radian makes decisions that he's going to do them, and so is that. Well, I want to do this. I want to do this. But also ultimately the will of the group is like we want to go back. I could even feel like in Delian being like a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? This does look like fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was but it was fun. And then after the festival, we headed back down, just like headed down the road.
Again, I love it the way that like Calnis was just like, I know a spot.
Yeah.
You know, and just like,
nice.
I
Yeah,
feel like that was
leading
quite
the
a
way
peaceful
through to
little
this.
walk that we had.
yeah, it
probably.
was. I think that's probably the first time that you guys kind of really got to breathe.
Breathe,
Yeah. Well, and I touched my bottom.
Yeah, you did.
It
touches
bottom.
yeah,
Tap.
pure locker room, sort of like a.
He's never been in a locker
No,
room.
I know, but it's like that thing of, you know, has seen sort of God, people trying to be a bit sort of like, sort of like trying to imitate that sort of, good job.
Like jocular jockeys.
yeah.
How do you know that kobolds don't, you know, in their caves underground, don't go around smacking each other's butts? You know?
Good job.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, every day is a learning day, and we're learning more and more about kobold culture all the time.
We had some rabbit stew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Radiant.
Well, you didn't.
No, didn't fancy any. Doesn't
Totally
trust
on-
anything.
Totally on edge.
Honestly, and it's probably in your remarkable performance, he was dodgy.
No, he wasn't.
I kept
He
thinking he was
wasn't at all.
fleecing us because it was all
And he
about like
was fleecing us.
inflated
Hang on,
prices.
he literally wasn't. I had you all roll on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that was, that was literally taken from the DM's guide. This is how much it costs for a modest, You know, if anything, it was kind of completely reasonable. He's the last motorway service station on the way to Coachella, and he hasn't put his prices up that weekend at all.
And you know how expensive things are at motorway stations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
It's like the WH Smiths once you're airside.
Yeah, charge what you want.
Oh my God.
No laws here.
Oh, yeah, I'll tell you what, also open to sponsorship from WH Smith.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've got no idea. Don't know the politics of the company. But I
But
think,
also, why would Radian know? Again, I'm asking you, why would Radian know how much it costs to stay in an inn? He doesn't stay in
No,
an
he
inn.
doesn't. He doesn't. He doesn't. I mean, it's almost, there's a level where like Radian is almost a child in an adult's body.
Completely.
Just kind of still figuring out what he's allowed to do, what he can get away with, like testing the limits of a reality that he has no memory of. And it's also why like, it's why I as much as it's like, jolting in a really good way, I buy the reality of him being like, your gods are dead. Because he can't, you know, like, you would, as a person, you would all, as people who were brought up here, have been raised worshipping a deity. You absolutely would have. The fact that Indelian has no regard for her deity is very unusual. And so the idea of there is no such thing as an atheist in this world. It's like saying you don't believe in gravity. Like the gods are real. Like in fact, the gods are real is the first line of the doc that I made for you when we started when I pitched the campaign to you guys. But to have like everyone would, or almost everyone would care about the deity they were brought up worshipping. Like. I think the only one that's really, of you guys, that was kind of hit by the death was probably Kelnis. Seemed to be a little bit more, like, carried the body of Theolon into the plaza. But even Dolly, kind of, you were sort of, your brain went into work mode when you found the body of Alakash. And I think, so having this kind of literally irreverent kind of attitude to it comes from a place of just not really understanding who anyone is. It's like when a child gets introduced to a celebrity, and it's like, what? Paul McCartney, okay. Like, cool, I'm 8. Like, I don't know who that is. It has no...
Yeah. I really wanted to, when we were on the road, pass one of the revelers and just go, the gods are dead, just to see, because you wouldn't believe it, because as far as they're concerned, they're up there. It's like the equivalent of saying something that someone knows, like, unequivocally to be true, that they are alive, surely. So someone just going, by the way, the gods are dead. It's just silly. It's silly, and obviously there wasn't an opportunity to do it, and nor did I feel like it was genuinely in keeping with the character. But just to kind of like push the boundaries of the world to see how an individual would understand that.
You'd probably be seen as like a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah,
you know,
just probably a little spiteful.
It would be spiteful. I don't think any it's interesting because I don't feel like anyone would be like, oh my god, the gods are dead.
They would have joke or something.
They're either going to go like, shut up, or if you get a real religious type, they might attack you.
Yeah,
because it's incredibly sacrilegious. It's incredibly offensive.
Yeah, because there's got to be conspiracy theories in the world that because the gods have been up there for so long, they don't come down. What do the Antiqua even do? There's got to be like sects or something in the world.
Yeah, I mean the world is extraordinarily well written. So multiple points of view have been considered.
Do you know one of my favorite bits actually of today's play was I copying Kelnis's rubbish attempt at looking mysterious Strider-like.
No, it was great. It was really cool. And obviously, I think also the lovely thing is, because you didn't say Strider in the episode, I like everyone's thinking
everyone knows Strider.
Around here, he's known as Strider. Like it's the as sort of. I loved I in a high chair. I loved it.
Cannot wait
funny.
for the artwork.
Kel has the skill to make you a high chair.
I know. Yeah, I am so excited for that. I've got the plans memorized. I'm gonna get I to scribble it down on a piece of. I'd love it. Imagine that note. He takes the only bit of paper around. He takes the important bit of note.
Like, you idiot! You just covered this in drawings for a high chair. An eye chair.
An eye chair. Lady Di in an eye chair.
Lady eye chair.
The people's princess.
Oh my god.
But then Radian had this moment.
Yes.
Yeah, what was that about? What
which, obviously we at the table know what that is, and I would imagine some of our audience know what that is, but for those who don't, I think it would be great not to spoil it too much. But a kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've had this feeling that like Radian doesn't like sleeping inside particularly, doesn't really enjoy the domesticity, like does it when he has to, but also I think just in his mind, whatever that is, has been screaming louder than it usually does. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of this kind of tension is building up and building up and building up to the point where it's actually, you know, you rolled that he cried. I'm like, it's that feeling of it really hurts. It really, really hurts him. And so it was this venting of emotion, I think, that kind of like to clear his mind.
That was kind of a little improv, sort of kind of homebrew adapted short-term madness table.
Really?
Yeah, so you have all these things for madness, and I just thought it would be quite fun to give you like a little symptom that was not necessarily indicative of like a wider malaise, but just the feeling of something uncontrollable happening to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, and then it was so interesting that object went missing.
Yeah.
And then showed up in the pocket of one of these.
That's so
I
spooky.
don't
It
in
appeared in
bag.
Radian's. So it reappeared in Radian's bag. So Radian buried it.
I missed that.
They went to
and then went to put the letter back in his pack after it was given to him by I. And the deck was back. The cards were back. And they were whispering again.
Yeah. I don't think that's the first time he tried to hide that deck of cards. Like I don't think it is.
Like those are all apocryphal stories of a copy of The Exorcist that gets thrown in the sea and it turns up in a drawer wet.
I like
Annabelle, Dolly.
I like the idea as well that like when you say it's not the first time, but there was that relief when he dug up and it wasn't there, and it's almost like I wonder if that's the first time that it's actually sort of disappeared, or
Don't know. We'll find out.
More should be revealed, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
And then we went into the forest.
And two of us went down.
Well,
That was
My
scary.
God,
That
well, first of all,
right
there was
from
the
the
hook. I mean, that
get-go.
was like it was. Was there a world in which we walked on past that?
There was okay. So to let you behind the screen, there was a world where you didn't meet them. There's also, of course, a world where you choose not to investigate yourself, and it was the poor stealth check from Dolly which really turned that into something. Once they saw you, they needed to get rid of you, for reasons that are opaque to an extent. But yeah, I mean, with all these things, there's like roles I'm making for encounters and all this kind of stuff, and yeah, I mean that's. What I thought the idea that they might be the web was very interesting.
Yeah,
because you're thinking
Good
of
for the web.
You're thinking of like so also like in terms of this is like a big thing to reveal. It didn't occur to me that you would wait.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't occur to me. Like it's this really interesting thing where players see patterns that as a DM you don't see.
Mm-hmm.
So a dragonborn, a human, and a tiefling now becomes intentional, or it looks intentional, but really it's just, I'm just trying to make sure that I don't use humans all the time. But you see patterns in that, and then my job is to kind of figure out what the hell happens if you wait for this, whatever. So it's kind of, so you're now in a brilliant way, completely off the rails.
Were they, when I said I wanted to go into the woods.
Yeah.
And
that's
if I'd gone further into the woods, would I have met them?
Potentially. That was why I wanted to know exactly where you were.
Yeah.
Because I thought I was trying, you're kind of trying to go, is this interesting if it happens alone? Because I think if you're alone, you probably don't step into and you probably don't step in and have a conversation with them.
No.
Because I think there's a version of that where you go into the clearing or go into their sort of little area, you talk to them, and they they kill you in the woods, and they never find your body. Mm-hmm. You couldn't have taken on all three of them.
No.
And so they were an adapted swashbuckler, archer, and berserker. So there's sort of three so you've kind of got some archetypes. So the archer had really high passive perception of 15, and their whole vibe is like stealth. And then the swashbuckler, who was the tiefling, has like kind of quite high charisma, high persuasion, acrobatics, all that sort of stuff. And it's just to try and kind of keep these dynamic encounters where I don't want you just hitting guards all the time, and people being able to like reckless attack. I mean, reckless attack is a barbarian ability, which can be really, really useful which I think all barbarians at second level get reckless attack. It's their version of action surge.
Yeah.
That they get the ability to attack with advantage, but they also receive attacks with advantage until the start of their next turn. But it's that kind of barbarian thing of just going all out and wanting to do as much damage as possible. So it was kind of there was no way you alone could have survived that.
Yeah, I would have probably watched and then. To be honest, though, I don't know. I'm really glad I didn't, because I actually think Radian probably would have stepped in and said something. Like, I can't. Part of me is like, oh God, he probably would have done a dickhead thing. So actually, I'm really glad he didn't.
But yeah, we had characters going down. In fact, I can reveal you both rolled 4s on your death saves.
Wow.
So you both had a fail. You know, like.
And what is it? 3 fails and
3 fails and you're
done
dead forever.
And if you get a nat 1, then that's 2.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
So you can die. You can die after 2 rolls. And I think the only thing that you could do, there are spells that can bring you back, and there are people who could cast those spells. But like Revivify, which is this kind of the spell that the Antiqua were trying to cast on the body of Aurum when they first found the dead god of the Dragonborn. Someone has to have died within the last minute. So you can do it, but you've got to be right there.
Unless you have gentle repose, I think.
Yeah, which you guys don't have. So, so gentle repose essentially allows you to keep a body in stasis for like a week.
It's quite a while.
Yeah, it's like a long time. So you could kind of magically, chirogenically stop someone from essentially actually going forever, and you could bring them back. But unless you've got like things like reincarnate, and I mean, I may as well say that like true resurrection, that that's not something that's going to be just available to you guys. You know, a lot of towns would have like apothecaries, and they'd have herbalists, and they'd have healers, and they would probably be the equivalent of like a level 1 cleric who can cast cure wounds. You know, like a surgeon. You know, like that would kind of be the thing. But you are not going to come across people who have spells where it's like bring this person back for good because they died. Like, how is it the first time a character goes down? And how is it being the people who don't see the roll?
Oh my God, I love not seeing the roll.
Yeah.
Because the imperative, like, in that moment, just being absolutely certain in my mind of going, I have to get this to her now.
Yeah, and taking an opportunity attack to do so.
Yeah, exactly. Well. Yeah, just going, you know what, it's worth the risk. And taking it and taking that damage, which I've definitely healed at one point. I'm trying to remember when. It might have been because I took some damage in some of our offline, but I think so far episodes 1, 2, and 3. This is I think that is the first bit of damage.
It's the kind of nature of a rogue, really. Isn't it?
You really shouldn't be.
Especially a ranged one.
Yeah.
You know, like if you're playing a rogue who's like, up in everyone's business, maybe you take the assassin archetype, the assassin roguish archetype or something, and I think the assassin once you get to a certain level, you automatically crit if you go before someone in the initiative, and you have advantage on people. And you do like, I'll look it up, but you do a kind of crazy amount of damage. So assassinate, starting at 3rd level, you're at your deadliest when you get the drop on enemies. You have advantage on any rolls, on attack rolls against any creature that hasn't taken a turn, and any hit you score is a critical hit. And then there's something you can take, I believe, where you can do maximum damage on the first hit. Like, so if you've got like potential for 3d8, you do 24 damage on your first hit. Like, like these kind of big opportunities to do damage. But unless you're kind of in the mix, you're hard to hit.
Yeah.
There's a 100%, if you're kind of writing the story of this, if you're writing this as a novel, there's absolutely a point at which everyone's dead apart from I, and I has to kind of, do you know what I mean? Or like everyone's gone down apart from I, who has to wait in the shadows because he's just he's too hard to find.
Yeah. Also, there are 2 thematic things with I, right, that really, I mean, obviously, the hiding one has been consistent. People turn around and going,
where's I?
Where's I gone? But the other one, so there's 2. First of all, both apply to me. I am the friend whenever we have a friendship group that goes to festivals. I'm the person that everyone's together having a great time, then they just turn around and it's like, where's Alex gone? Like that every time without fail. And then I'll turn up like 3 hours later, bump into them and be like, I've just been and done this and this, and I met so-and-so and so-and-so. So there's that side. And then the other bit is the shop just down near me. several years ago, when I one time the manager, I took some popcorn up to the till, and the manager behind the desk went, "Right, popcorn boy." And I went, "What?" I took my headphones off. I went, "Popcorn boy." He's like, "I'm not even kidding you. I think I sell about 90% of my popcorn to you alone."
Oh my God, I love it.
I love it now. There's like the completely
You've come full
continuously
circle.
getting lost in the thing and then just appearing with popcorn. It's like
It's not like one of the most amazing. The coolest thing about that fight was that I did not expect them to be that powerful. And
Yeah,
I
they were
certainly
strong.
didn't. And by Dolly going down immediately,
Yeah.
it was. Oh, buddy.
Yes.
I thought we were going to get the drop on them.
Yeah.
And I felt like we were in this really, really strong
Yeah.
position. And it was, they weren't going to do anything because they'd followed her and then that was it. And then it was like, nope, she's down.
No.
Yeah.
Oh no.
But it's because you kind of heard them coming. But I think the archer, the Dragonborn, I think rolled a 22 on their stealth check in the round before they were. So you could hear them coming towards you, but I made the point. So I feel like it was justified. I made the point that it's really thick forest. So there's a version where you can just hear them coming, and then once they get in vision, they're having kind of because it's sort of, if you like, each round they're rolling continuous stealth checks. You even Kel, who has really high perception, you have like a plus 5 or maybe a +7 if you have +7. You know, 22 is high stealth. It's like it's almost like an eye level stealth. And so I felt like the image of just like 2 arrows coming out of the dark and going doof doof was really kind of.
And you're right, it
Pretty
did
cool.
totally take the rug out from underneath. I can't speak for everyone, but totally took the rug out underneath my feet. Like, I fully agreed. I thought, great, let's set ourselves up to catch them unawares.
Yeah. Nope.
It was mad.
And it didn't work
It was
out.
our first battle without Morgan, and it kind of showed because it was this like it seems to be a theme with us, which is the tankiest one goes down.
Yeah.
Because you gravitate towards and the fact Endelian's not gone down yet is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
But great use of web as well.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like those
Yeah.
battlefield control spells. I'm like when I play, on the rare occasions I've played D&D rather than running it, I'm like a real sucker for sorcerers. I love sorcerers. And sorcerers are much more they're sort of cannons. They're proper glass cannons. They're just like big.
Love that turn of phrase.
Yeah, just like big damage-dealing spellcasters, chromatic orbs and fireballs and all that kind of stuff. Plus some kind of control things, alter self and seeming and all that kind of stuff. Or at least that's how I like to play them, and that's how I've seen them played. And I can get very excited by seeing the amount of dice you might get to roll. Imagine the amount of damage I could do. And my mind doesn't naturally go to those area of effect battlefield control spells. But they're incredibly useful. They're they can't get out. The Berserker had a +3 to strength, screwed it up when he tried to get out. The Archer had +0. And so they're trying to get out of a DC 14 check for that Archer. The Archer's got to roll a 14 on the die. Or how many times do we collectively? And then that's their whole turn. And it was so effective at limiting their ability to put you in genuine danger.
Yeah.
Particularly because that Archer can fire 2, and actually only fired 1 arrow in its first attack at you, so you didn't go down. But can fire 2 arrows. The Camino, the Tiefling, can make 2 attacks. You're fighting things with multi-attack now as well. That's part of the difficulty curve. Is it's all about, so much of D&D is action economy. So much of it is how many things can you do in a round versus how many things they can do in a round.
Man, I was so disappointed that he ran away. First of all, the guy who was standing over my body, because then Dolly healed me.
Yeah.
And I thought, if it came around to my turn again, I was going to ask, am I still laying down? Have I just been healed and I'm just kind of woken up and I'm still laying kind of under this guy? I wanted to use my dragon breath on him.
That would have been so cool.
That would have been so fun. And then he buggered off.
I think that was probably a mistake on my part. You probably should have got an opportunity attack, but you would have been prone, and you can only make a melee attack from opportunity with an opportunity attack. I also think not that this is me trying to make out like it was a good thing that I forgot, but there's something great about the chase. There's something really fun about this image of like, and also that moment that we then got of like Radian being like, well done. And these
After bullying him again.
Yeah.
And
My God, the emotional whiplash.
but, well, one, that's what Radian does, and two, that thing of you would die. You would die alone. You would die alone. Kel would be absolutely fine. The rest of you would die alone. But you know, like that, you are hugely weakened by the absence of one person. And you know, I don't want to preempt what might, you know, is a kind of more gradual arc for Radian, but like he's gonna have to learn. Like he's gonna have to learn to be part of a team. And I think moments like that are part of what lead you on that path, potentially.
That mind spike.
Mind spike was
such a
great.
perfect spell to
I completely forgot you could obviously remember where he was. I was just like, again, that's the kind of thing of going, why would he fight to the death?
It was quite pleasing because obviously Mind Spike didn't do as much damage as I hoped, and he made that quip about my mind being kind of, my pain kind of being pathetic, and then the fact that I just think I'm really pleased with the spell because I just think it's a really lovely thing that kind of thematically fits in with like what Radian's about as an individual, and I didn't expect it to come up this soon. I only said that bit because I thought, for later on down the line, it'll be really useful if someone turns invisible, not if someone absolutely bolts it.
They're in that same fight.
Yeah, in that same fight, which was really cool.
The flow of it was so nice. Like casting web, and then they were both dead, so you didn't need the web anymore. So your concentration was free to cast another spell.
It's not
like
a spell
the
I'd
flow
come
for
across
you
as well
was
either.
stunning.
Mind Spike, I just kind of wasn't familiar with it. It's the first time I'd heard of it.
Yeah.
It's a Xanathar's spell.
Yeah.
Right.
I got to when I leveled up, I took Toll the Dead and Mind Spike.
I love Toll the Dead.
It's so good.
Toll the Dead is such
Quite
a
a powerful
great
cantrip too.
You'd fortunately given him some damage, so it meant that I was.
Did you get an extra cantrip then at that level?
Yeah.
Wow, nice.
You get one extra cantrip.
I love anything that kind of. Also at level 5, it'll be 2d12 or 2d8.
It will be, yeah.
Because you're not far away from getting those little boosts. Like I think I said this in the last action surge, but the next level is where level 5 things really really start to happen. It'll be a while before you get there, because we don't want to level up too quick. Although those levels, you'll stay in. By the time we're hopefully into multiple seasons of this show, you might be at level 10 for half a season because you'll really kind of be stuck in.
The combat seemed, again, it's because we are essentially learning our characters as we go, and I could kind of sense in this combat the flow was a lot quicker. We were making decisions, basically because you were down. We didn't. I think a lot of the fight was actually focused on the fact that you went down and then you went down. So it was all like, I would not have used web on those two people had you not been down. I would have done something else.
Also, had you guys been down at the same time, that's both your healers down.
Yeah.
Unless you have a potion, there is no. If they've both gone down at the same time, unless you have a potion, one of them, the best that is going to happen is they're going to stabilize at 0 HP, and you're going to have to bring their body to a healer.
Yeah.
And they're not dead, but they are like in a sort of, almost like in a coma.
Yeah.
So it's.
Yeah.
It's quite the pickle to find yourselves in if both of those two go down.
Do you know what I also really liked about in this moment? I love it when we have the minis. Specifically this battle, I enjoyed not having the minis because we were caught flat-footed. We were so caught off guard by it. And it was in the dark, and it was in all the shrubbery. It felt like it was shots in the dark, firing in the dark, moving. It was just so to not have the minis for this moment and this combat felt thematically correct, and actually added to, from my perspective, don't know about others, but like this feeling of going, where the hell is everyone? Okay, so wait, what's going on? And that kind of slight panic.
Yeah, and I think that that's the kind of the reason we have minis in. I don't think it's necessarily we'll have minis in every 2 episodes or every second episode, but by and large, the reason that we have minis in alternating episodes is because we get together and record 2 episodes at a time over 2 days, and I don't know what you're going to do, and so I can't prep minis until I'm pretty sure we're going to need them. because we have a finite amount of money and we don't have storage. So it's not like we can just go. We have Mark at Crafted Campaigns who does amazing stuff, but it's not like we just have this infinite library of ready minis. And I'm like, oh, cool, they decided to fight some guards. Let me just go and grab some guards and a tower and a tavern, and we'll create a market square and we'll have some NPCs. Like we don't have that luxury. And so the thing that offers us is like particularly because part of our audience is watching and part of our audience is listening. You're going to sometimes get these imagined fights where we're just kind of theatre of the mind, and we're going to have others which we have the minis for, and it becomes maybe more tactical and more about positioning and placement and line of sight and all that sort of stuff. And I think it's nice to have both. It's nice to have that different feeling and that different flavour, and to feel sometimes really rooted or really rootless, depending on what the kind of situation demands and the manner of that kind of battle.
I've never really played with minis before, and
I haven't ever before session
I'm enjoying
one.
it. I think I still prefer theater of the mind over minis, but I appreciate what the minis bring to the experience.
Yeah. I thought I would find it very limiting, and actually I find it quite liberating, minis, because it's suddenly kind of not really about me trying to go, oh yeah, where is everyone, and is that fair, and does that seem about right? You've all heard me say separately, like I have a terrible visual imagination. Like I'm not good at holding space in my head at all. And so I've always found combat like quite challenging. Like I'm in the crudest possible terms, I'm like a story and role play heavy DM, because that's what I find really exciting. Thank God you're here, Holly, you'll love it. Rather than like a kind of like things like the landslide and stuff takes me a long time. Like stuff like that takes me a long time because it's very visual. And it's nice to have both. But I'm really enjoying having the minis. I'm enjoying it kind of takes the pressure off me to. I can make fewer mistakes because there just aren't as many opportunities for me to make mistakes or get things wrong, because I can literally look over and go, oh no, they're over there.
That note.
Oh yeah, the note.
That note also, I mean, hello Camino. Because if we are going to do this now, we know one name, Camino, the tiefling, assuming the Camino was the tiefling.
It was in Camino's pack.
Yeah, exactly. So, it says Camino, so we've got Camino.
I mean, it could absolutely just go all tits up, but it was worth a go. I went that way because you had specifically said you can. I hadn't even thought about it. You can take the masks and the cloak if you want, which probably would have been good use if we went to Baroon, for instance, and we could try and infiltrate something there. But for some reason, there was just something drawing me about the synergy of everything, and I went, That's interesting.
I think it's going to be utterly chaotic. It might be fine. Could be.
I mean, we learned that there are literally followers in our world of the Vile to a degree. We don't. I mean, they've said the mantra. Is this just a thing which they almost don't even know, and it's like a paid thing, and they're just sort of like it's sort of almost web-like,
And the fact that you told us about the mural exists, and we find the paint, we find all the stuff, we're just kind of like piecing it together and going, they're probably going to ask us, is it done? And it's going to be interesting to see how all the characters who are clearly not performers other than you, fortunately, like Radian's going to be hanging back, you're going to be hanging back. It's going to be interesting to see how they navigate that.
And I think probably in moments like this, Radian and I are probably worked out quite well, because I think they are probably the least reliable to understand the social norms that would go into this. I think Kelnis and Delian are worldly enough to go, I should probably shut up for most of this. I'll speak when I'm spoken to, but I won't be like, let me take the wheel, Dolly. And so that, it'll be interesting. I mean, it's exciting stuff for me to go away and think about.
I just want I've started to after we heard that audio of the vile, the virtuous, the wild, you're starting to theorize, and then I don't know if anyone else has got any little theories. I mean, can we talk about theories?
Great, yeah, of course you can. So this is the time to do it.
I was like the idea of what if the wild, there was sort of an element of teaming up with the virtuous, and the Briar was holding things back, and blah blah blah. But now I'm kind of like this theory idea that the tree itself with the lights and everything is the virtuous, the briar is the thing which is actually the wild holding the virtuous at bay. So let's say these are the bodies are simply their physical form, and there's a corporeal form that is beyond in the trees and stuff, and they are still technically there. It's just they've lost their physical form, and the briars, and that's do you know what I mean? Holding them at bay. Yeah. The briar will hold. That whole thing, like, because at first I thought it was the other way around, and I thought it was to do with the briar was maybe something that was, the wild and for the virtuous. But now I'm like,
well, the story of the gods is that there was this battle, and then there was this peace because the virtuous won. We don't know what that means, and then what they did was create a crater that was surrounded on all sides.
By the Alanites.
But what's on the but what is by the Alanites? These impassable mountains.
Yeah.
So existence exists in this circular thing. We don't know what do we know winning to be?
And the black water that's waiting to flood.
It's like holding something back. It's not this. There is something else outside of it. Just what we know is this mountain.
What if the whole thing of them winning was never actually them winning? It was kind of, in a way, the vile really technically won, and the virtuous simply went, let us have this space. And then they were like, the vile was like, fine, we'll let you have this space. And then this child and everything, and they went, well, you've broken that now, so you don't even get your space. That could be to them. They've told us that they won.
Oh, boy.
Who knows what winning truly is?
You rest poker face on.
Well, I mean, there's bits of it that I'm smiling at. It's just lovely to hear people theorize on it. Because again, it's just another example of I can just lay trails of breadcrumbs, but it's up to me. It's up to you, to figure out what that means and where they're taking you. And there are things today that you've done that I was completely expecting, and there are theories that you have that are, or like ideas that you've had. Not necessarily. I'm not talking about this specific conversation that we've just had, but kind of things that we've talked about where I'm like, yeah. That's kind of that's the shape I imagined that taking. And then other times when I'm just completely off the hoof and on the hoof and completely going, oh, okay, cool, like, and I think this is what I find really exciting as a DM, because the point at which the thing that I think is so wonderful as a creative person about DMing is it's creative, it's collaborative, and it's by its nature imperfect. Were I to obsess about every detail and craft a story session by session that works perfectly, that goes seamlessly for me, and every beat plays out as I hoped it would, you are not playing D&D. You are listening to Storytime with Harry. It's not fun. And it kind of distances me from you. And so the amazing thing is I don't have to worry about the perfect session because we are introducing chaos to it. And not only does that kind of, in a way, like in a really liberating way, I always feel, take the pressure off me. I just have to... Perfectly
imperfect.
Yeah, exactly. It also allows the world to... so the path that you take, I could run session one of like... you were always going to fight the wolves. The gods were always going to be dead. The orbs were always going to be there. That was always going to happen. That is, if you like, you're on rails for that.
Would we always heard? Because I mean, if we didn't interact with it, what would?
I mean, I was laying a lot. It's a more interesting story if you hear it.
Yeah.
So I would have given you every opportunity to hear it. Yeah. But from the point at which you leave there. You could play this with 100 different collections of 5 people and you'd have 100 different ways, and some of them would go to the festival. Some of them would want to stay with Morgan and be like, no, we need to see the spinner take us to wherever you're going. Some would...
I didn't even think about that.
Absolutely a possibility. Some would have killed Jasmine. Some would have just fought to the death. Some would have interacted with this group and maybe tried to so essentially Dolly went in there and went, I don't really know what's going on, sorry. There's a version where you go in there and try and flex and act like you've been sent there. There's all these kind of different possibilities, and now you have, for the first time in a really great way, done something like I just completely wasn't anticipating. And therefore this story now forever diverges from the one that I had planned in the most brilliant way possible. And all the things that I thought you might do, you can still do, and all the places that I thought you might go, at this point you can still go, and the people you can meet, but you're taking your own path. And that's the joy of it, is the controlled chaos that you bring into it, the perfect imperfection that everyone brings to it. It stops it. It's not my thing, it's our thing.
It's the joy of it now until you have to sit down and do all of like, right, okay, so.
No, still, that's the fun. Like, that's the fun, because I'm now forced to consider motivations and characters and opportunities and structures that I just didn't have to consider at this point, that I would get to later down the road. There's always things playing off camera. There are things happening all the time that you're either going to see or not see, but it's not going to happen.
Are you figuring out, because we've played together, but we've played in kind of very controlled environments of us, like doing kind of lots of battles and dungeoning and stuff. But are you understanding the way in which our characters are working more, or are you still a bit like, that's mad?
No, I mean, it's an ongoing thing.
Yeah.
It's an ongoing thing. I mean, I think in the same way that every now and then you guys still have to look at your character sheets and be like, oh, hang on, what is my spell save DC? Or hang on, what do I add to an attack or add to my damage? I'm having to go like, oh, hang on, is that provocation going to have the effect that I'm imagining, or is it going to take us somewhere completely different? Like, I think there are buttons that I would know. I now know how to push buttons on all 5 of you, I think. I think I'm figuring that out. But motivating 5 of you individually is very different from motivating all of you as a group.
Yeah.
It's actually why the web is such a useful narrative framing device. Because there's no other reason for you guys to stay together. And until you find that reason, until you find that sense of community and solidarity among one another and that need for each other, and maybe even that fondness and friendship, the web is an incredibly narratively useful thing. It keeps you in these first sessions together.
It's also why, like, it's so interesting in that moment, seeing this little party and seeing their masks and thinking, it could be the web, like, for all we know, there could be many different elements of the web.
God,
it could be that some parties, and they all believe that every member of the web wears a mask. And it could be that it's like, it just looks slightly different in every single group that's put together so that no one ever really knows.
Totally. And to take your theory, which may be correct, may be incorrect, maybe somewhere in between, that this is some sort of adjacent to the vile organisation that you've stumbled into, it's a much more reasonable assumption that it's the web than it's that. You've never encountered an organisation that's associated with a group of gods that you believe to be dead. And so why would you know? It also did give us an opportunity to say the web is wide, good for the web.
Good for the web.
The web is incredible.
Good for the web.
Brilliantly delivered, by the way, as well. The pause was just right.
I would just like to say that I really enjoyed the new, like, Aoife said something, which is you made a choice and then you changed it because you said that's my character would be feeling a certain way, and you were fighting in like a really characterful way. And the fact that Shatter came off in the way that it did, I thought was it was almost like this anger after being downed, and then the fact that it hit both of them was just it was
really
all chef's kiss for me.
It's completely the opposite of when Jasmine tried to say you have no power here, and then you cast Guardian Shield.
Well, click.
Shall we roly-poly?
I wish for the high score.
And while we're doing that, I will give my now traditional, these are my favourite things that happened. I love that Dolly failed her stealth check. It's so much more interesting if she fails her stealth check. And
+5 as well.
And I loved that you went to the festival. Again, didn't think you were going to go back to the festival. That stumped me. That was fun. And it was just a joy for me as a DM to see everyone starting to, like, more and more every session roleplay with more confidence and feel like the shackles are off a little bit and you can kind of start to carve your own path out in the world. That is very rewarding as a DM, and that was a very exciting thing for me. Right. We've rolled the poll. How high does it go? Radian, Ben.
Before we start, I would like to say, if anyone does this at home alongside us, feel free to do that and place yourselves in rank.
Absolutely. We trust you. We do trust you to be honest on that. Because we shan't be having a load of 160s coming in.
No. I got 91.
91. Still to break 3 figures in the last
Don't
couple of sessions.
remind me.
No, it's not
No,
your
no,
fault,
no,
mate.
no.
It's not your fault.
This is my lowest score yet, 67.
67. That's still one better than Radian's last
Don't
one. isn't it?
remind me.
That's exactly what I got last
what
time.
Alex got in
Yeah.
the last one. I like that we've gone Holly and Alex, and I'm like, Radian didn't do better. I'm kind of blaming the character rather than Ben. Doug, what'd you get?
I got 81 today.
Oh, it's a low.
Yesterday.
It's a very
Yeah,
low.
yesterday
It's a very low
138.
roly-poly. Can you buck the trend, Alex?
119.
119.
There it is.
That's how you recover, Aoife.
113.
Sorry to take
On
so much
St.
glee in
St.
that.
Patrick's Day of all days, you
Oh,
could
no.
just give
How
her
dare
that.
you.
could
Which
you?
also, for anyone who is
beautiful.
watching visually, we do have our nod to St. Patrick's Day over here.
Entirely intentional.
We have green for Doug, and then we have Holly in white, and then we have Ben in a sort of a kind of a mustard.
Yeah, not quite.
That was the early morning
Not quite,
WhatsApp
not
was
quite.
like,
I
don't
thought-
let me down.
I thought for a moment when you said we have green for, I thought you were going to explain the significance of each of the colours on the arrow tag, and I was like, that's incredibly impressive and probably Aoife's thing to do if anyone's going to do it.
Take that as well from her. Go on, you've won Roly Poly. Carry on, mate.
Anything.
It is my divine right as the winner of Rolling Poly.
I think currently that makes collectively Aoife's in the lead, right? Because you've done some big.
Only the last two. I rolled horribly the first.
I
That
cannot
doesn't sound
wait
like
to
you.
see the,
Alright.
the sums as they get tallied up
Yeah,
by
I'm
someone
looking forward to it.
alongside.
Consistently moving.
Can we,
table.
for like special ones, have like double, triple score days, just to get us back?
I tell you what. Here's what might be fun. You can nominate. You can play a wild card and nominate one session that you would like to double your roll, but you have to declare it before.
Yeah,
So
your
you have
joker.
to sort of essentially feel
Bardic
lucky.
inspiration, but
Yeah,
for
Can
Roly
you have
Poly.
two? Can we have two where we can double your own roll and one time you can choose to half someone else?
Oh my
I love it.
What is meant to be something nice and fun is become nasty?
Well,
It's-
that's the way of the world.
The children are fighting, and I think that's probably where we'll have to say goodbye because I think we're going to get into a serious domestic disturbance. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Action Surge. Thank you for joining us on our adventures in Reliquii. I'm off to figure out what the hell happens next. Until next time, keep rolling dem dice. D&D, baby!